Travis Auld, the AFL Executive General Manager of Clubs, Broadcasting and Finance, is about to join us. Well, that is his official title, Scoop, but the title that I'm more interested in, he's the man that you have voted 9 out of 10 on the Take It to the Bankerometer as the likely person to replace Gil McLaughlin.
You sound surprised about this. We were talking about this when I was in Perth 9 months ago.
Yes, I was.
I said that it was...
It's the 9 out of 10, which seems to me that, as far as you're concerned, you are taking it to the bank.
No,
nevertheless, he won't want to talk about that. That doesn't mean we won't. He joins us on the line. Welcome to you, Travis.
Thank you. Nice introduction, Gerard.
9 out of 10. How do you think Scoop's rating accuracy could well be?
I'll have to have a chat to him about the other one to see what I've gone wrong there. No, look, you're right. I don't want to talk about that. I'm here to talk about a bunch of other stuff, so fire away.
Well, we'll get rid of the stuff you want to talk about, and then we'll get to the stuff that we want to talk about. AFLW fixture released today. Highlights include what?
Well, the first highlight is we've clearly changed the timing of the season, and you can see the benefit of that straight away, that we kick off round one with clean air. Thursday, Friday night, big start to the season. And then if you go a bit further into the fixture, you can see that we've got round 5 and in around the grand final. How do we maximise so many people in that precinct and allowing that competition to leverage off the finals of the men's? And so there's all the stuff you look for in terms of blockbusters and big starts, but there's some things that are different than past seasons, and fundamentally one of the reasons why we moved the season.
I like the fact that you're going to have a game on grand final day at Punt Road Oval. Brisbane is going to be hosted by Richmond. The Tiger faithful will all be able to get their jam-pack and hopefully for them move over to the G. And what's their men's side? Yeah,
and you see some other games in and around the precinct, Gerard. I think it's, we know what the grand final parade does for the city. And so if you've got that many people around and they're footy lovers, then I'm sure they'll take the opportunity to go and watch their team, or if it's not their team, watch some talented footballers play games in and around the precinct on that day.
Hey, Trav, I want to ask you, I'm really invested in the under-18 competition, which is going on at the moment, Victoria, Big Country, South Australia, Allies. Why don't we ever get those games as curtain raisers anywhere to AFL games where we can showcase the best footballers in the country that will be drafted, in 3 or 4 months' time?
Yeah, good question, Lloyd. I think this has been a challenge for some time. We talk about just curtain raisers or double headers more broadly. It sounds really easy, but when you try and get broadcast outcomes to make sure that competition gets the exposure that you want it to, that there's grounds and all the things that sound a bit boring but they're real, it's been quite difficult. It's something we talk about a lot. It's something we had a chat this morning about actually in terms of that under-18 competition. How do we give it more visibility and prominence? So we're not quite there yet. We'd like to improve it, but there's little hurdles with these things that get quite frustrating at times.
Travis, just gone with a story on the Age website, the AFL confirming to me about half an hour ago that rounds 1 to 15 are going to be locked in next season. So no floating fixture until round 16 onwards. It sounds like to me that the AFL's reacted to a backlash from fans and clubs. Would that be accurate?
We've certainly listened to fans and clubs. I don't know if there's much backlash. As you know, we fell into a rolling fixture through COVID. It was a necessity because we didn't sort of know we were going to be from week to week. So it was a true rolling fixture at one stage there. We went into this current season, I think we released 9 or 10 rounds up front. Still a bit worried about the impact of COVID, but we also saw some benefit in a rolling fixture. The feedback we got from fans either directly or via clubs is they want a bit more certainty. We had a chat to the clubs about that a couple of weeks ago. Their view is 15 rounds feels really good. I'd imagine we'll then release rounds 16 to 22. I don't know, Sam, probably about round 10 to 12, somewhere around there.
Yep.
And give them plenty of runway into the last part of the season. Then we'll leave round 23 as a floating round, which has worked quite well to set up the finals.
And would you envisage Thursday night football being a permanent fixture in the next broadcast deal?
I think we're seeing more Thursdays, and I think Gil's already been on record as saying he'd like to see more Thursdays. So when he likes to see something, it normally happens, and so we'll see more Thursdays. And I think that you can see why fans love them. It's a real feature. It's just getting the balance right in terms of the right venues, right time of year, right matchups. We'll need a few more days. We've got 5-day breaks. Each club will have one each. We might need a bit more leeway there. But yes, I think the short answer to your question is we'll see some more. This year, I think we're aiming for about 10. So I think we'll see a few more than that next year.
And how have you rated the Thursday night games that we've seen in Melbourne in the not-so-great weather? At the MCG, most of them?
Yeah, I think that's part of the challenge, Gerard, is having 8 to 10 means you can be quite selective about the time of year and the location. It can be a little less so. Now, and some of that's a bit circumstantial in terms of what teams are available and so forth. But there's the overlay of just the other complexities we're dealing with and getting people back to the football as well. And so it's a combination of things, but there's always good learnings. There's no doubt there's been a couple of crowds who've been a bit disappointed with, certainly haven't met the expectations of the clubs. There's been some really good ones. And so I think we're all learning coming out of COVID, and that's certainly one of them.
Can I ask you about, in general terms, the search for the CEO and its relationship with the information that we never see from the Commission? Is there a blueprint for the way forward that the CEO is going to be asked to enact? Or do we wait for the CEO to find out who he is before we enact
or she
the blueprint, or she?
He or she. That's a good clarification, Sam. I think you're asking the wrong person. I think that's a question for the Commission in terms of how they want to set up success for the next CEO. What Gil's been clear about is the things that he wants to get done with his team before he departs, and they're big things. And so, extensions of broadcast deals, CBA for the men and women, what we're going to do in Tasmania in terms of their submission for a 19th licence. There's a series of things that will largely set up a big part of the next CEO's, certainly early part of their term. But beyond that, and how the Commission wants to set that up, that's really a question for them.
So, Travis, on Tasmania, there seems to be a feeling, rightly or wrongly, within the industry that Tasmania is going to be granted a licence for a 19th team. It's just a matter of when, not if. And 2025, 2026 is being talked about. And then the AFL put the ball back in the Tasmanian government's court by saying, well, if you don't have a stadium, we can't give you a licence. Can you right now guarantee that at some point, and I'm saying in the next 20 years, Tasmania is going to have a team? Or has that not yet been decided?
Oh, look, there's been a lot of conversation, and rightly so. I think most people feel that Tasmania deserves to be represented in our competition.
Yeah, but that's very different to whether it's going to be feasible or not.
That's right. It's just a base of what format that takes. So if you think about the piece of work that we're working on, leading at the moment, is there's 11 work streams. We're working closely with the Tasmanian government. They include things like stadia and a new stadium in Tasmania. It includes things like how you build a list, the membership base, a whole range of things. The commitment we made to the clubs via the Commission is that we would come back in August with a position on each of those things. Some of them are in our control. There's a number of them are in the control of the Tasmanian government, and so we don't have positions on each of those yet. But we certainly need to be in a position to take something to the clubs and the club presidents in August.
Hey, Trav, have you started the interview process? So have you already been interviewed so far?
That's one of those questions, Lloyd, I think, wasn't it, that we saw?
Okay, you can't answer that one?
Yeah. No, well, look, I'm being a bit smart. It's not, you can see how much is on our agenda. Me talking about where I'm at, whether it's in the process or not, is probably not what people want me to be worried about. So we're pretty focused on getting people back playing the game and going to the footy, to be honest.
We're interested in other issues as well, like the red card. What's your stance on the red card if you did graduate to the top job?
I think we've been on record. It's been a topic the last couple of weeks that I don't believe in the red card. I don't, fortunately, I don't see the number of incidents happen as, obviously any one of them's too many, but certainly not enough to warrant us changing the rule. What would happen is the minute they change the rule, then there's debate around when it's enacted, and it's really easy to go to the couple that are obvious. There's a range that sit below that. I don't think it's necessary. I'm just grateful we don't see those sort of incidents that regularly.
So you think it's fair that somebody like Andrew Gaff stays out on the ground, even though it's dangerous in its own right, and if it was on a grand final would probably
this
be
is when
the
he hit Brayshaw
precursor
a couple of years ago.
Be the precursor to a reactionary bout of violence?
Look, I think you can pick 2 or 3 really clear incidents
Yep.
that you would say that rule would apply.
But aren't they the ones that we're actually looking at, rather than having the bar set too low?
They are, but then the debate starts about when you get the ones wrong. And so equally, in an incident where there's debate about whether that should have happened or not, it can have the same consequence in a grand final. And so, yes, it's easy to look in hindsight at one that's really clear. It'll be the ones that aren't so clear, and that can equally be influential on outcome.
Injury sub. You'd get rid of it if you took over, wouldn't you? Just have 5 interchange?
I've not said that. I actually haven't turned my mind to it. It's not something that we've talked a lot about. I listened to Brad Scott and the footy department talk about the things they're focused on. That doesn't seem the one that's getting a lot of time at the moment.
And when you sit down at home just to watch your favourite show, are you more of an Amazon guy or a Stan guy, or you just sort of stick with Seven and Fox to watch your favourite shows?
Well, my favourite shows are footy, Sam. So I watch them on Channel 7 and Fox, and often I watch them on KO, which is a great product.
Nice answer.
So I enjoy watching my football on those.
And what time on a Friday night do you prefer to watch your
good
footy?
question, Lloydie.
7:20 or 7:50?
That is a good question. There is momentum building for an early start. There's no doubt about that. I think one of the things that we're trying to understand is have behaviours changed with not as many people going to the office on a Friday. Mm. We deliberately started a bit later on Fridays because a lot of people were getting to the game late. We're talking 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. That seems to be happening a bit less. And so, a bit like we talked about before, I think there's a lot of learnings coming out of COVID. I think it might give us the opportunity to revisit start times. How it exactly looks, I don't know. It won't be anything for this year. But there's certainly some changes in behaviours in terms of patterns of people attending games.
Would that mean you're guaranteed a few more trains if the game finishes early?
I have heard you complain about this, Sam. Which is warranted. We've had a lot. Yes, it is, Gerard. We've had a lot of feedback about public transport, and unfortunately, I think we're going to face into the game this weekend, and so we've.
Well, are there more closures this weekend, Travis?
It appears there might be. We're trying to get to the bottom of it now, Sam. We've had quite a bit of feedback today. We've got some over the weekend. Our ability to influence that, I don't know. Clearly, we'd like to control most things. So if we could build it around our fixture, it'd be nice. But it's annoying. It's really annoying for fans because there's a range of things of which we're working on to make it easier for people to get to the football.